lesson 49, we are taking equations and making sure that they are in slope-intercept form. So remember that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Y is alone in this case. Our y and x are variables that we can plug in different values and see what comes out. M, of course, is the slope, so that's the one that is always multiplied to x. And b is our constant, our y-intercept. So, if we look at each of these equations, we need to determine the slope and y-intercept of each one. Well, the first two on the left are pretty straightforward because they're already in slope-intercept form. We know that because, well, y is by itself. And so, let me get rid of this. So when we go to find the slope and y-intercept of the equation, we'll say, well, our slope is always what is attached to that x, which in the first case, m is 3, and our y-intercept is the constant. So b is not just 4, it's negative 4. And in the second case, our slope is 5, and our y-intercept is 7. Now with each of these, especially when we look at the slope, we need to remember, well, that's a ratio of rise over run. So if we were to graph this on a plane, we would say, well, in the first equation, m is 3, so our rise is 3 and our run is 1. Remember, any whole number can be shown as a fraction over 1, so our m equals 5 can be shown as 5 over 1. Our rise is 5, our run is 1. With the second two equations, these are not in slope-intercept form, and so we need to get them there so that we can find the slope and y-intercept of each equation. Well, in slope-intercept form, remember, y is alone. So that's our goal. We need to get y by itself. So we start manipulating this equation. First, I'm going to add 9 to each side, and I get 2x plus 3y is equal to 9. And then still want to get y alone, so I take away 2x. And I have 3y is equal to negative 2x plus 9. And then, to get y completely alone, it's right now multiplied by 3, so I need to divide by 3. Now, in previous lessons, when we're just solving for a variable, it's okay to leave it like this, but in slope-intercept form, I need to know and split up these terms and actually divide them by 3. So each term needs to get divided by 3, so we know exactly what is our slope, what is our y-intercept. So I take negative 2x and divide by 3 and get negative 2/3 x. And I take 9, divide by 3, and get plus 3. So in the first case, my slope, m, is a negative 2/3, which means I'm going to rise a negative 2, which really means fall 2, and run 3. And my y-intercept is 3. So I'm going to start by putting that at 3 and then go from there with my slope. And then my second one here, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I could subtract 3, subtract 6x, and then divide by negative 3, but in order to avoid some negatives, I'm actually going to move that y to the other side. It doesn't actually matter if our y ends up on the right side or left side, just that it's by itself. So I'm going to end up adding 3y to each side. So I end up with 6x plus 3 equals 3y. And then I just have to divide by 3. And I'll take each term and divide by 3, so I get 6x divided by 3 is 2x, 3 divided by 3 is plus 1, equals y. So my m is 2, and I'll remember to do 2 over 1 when I do my rise over run, and my y-intercept is 1. So remember, when we want slope-intercept form, get y by itself. Okay, so a solution of an equation with two variables is an ordered pair that satisfies the equations. Okay, so when we have y equals 2/3 x, I'm looking for an ordered pair that satisfies the equation. Now there's a lot of ways to do this. Lots of ways to do this, but remember, if you were just asked for solutions, an easy way to find those solutions would be to create a table and plug in different x values. It doesn't actually matter which x values you plug in. But let's start by graphing this. And when we do this, and I actually have it already up, but I'll show you how we got there. So in this case, our slope is 2/3, that's what's connected to the x, and our y-intercept, we're not adding anything, so our slope or our y-intercept is 0. So we always begin with the y-intercept and put it at 0, and then we're going to rise 2, run 3, which you can see this little slope triangle that has been drawn, rise 2, run 3, and we get here. Or we could go completely opposite of that and go down 2, left 3, and get this point here. And if we want 3 solutions, well, we're going to say anything on that line is a solution. So we could say 0, 0 is a solution. We could say 3, 2 is a solution. We could say -3, -2 is a solution. And anything else on that line is a solution. Let's try another one. Let me just cover this for a second. So if we have 2x plus y plus 5 equals 0, we want some solutions to that and graph it. But first I want it in slope-intercept form. So I am going to move everything else to the other side and get y equals -2x minus 5. And see that we have a slope of -2, so -2/1, and a y-intercept of -5, which means when we go to graph this, this is what we will see. We will see that we start with my y-intercept of -5, and I'm going to rise -2, which means I'm going to go down. So down -2/1. Or I could go up 2 and left 1. Regardless, up 2, left 1, we end up on the line. So some of our solutions are 1, -7. We could say 0, -5. We could say -1, -3. Or we could say -2, -1. We could keep going forever and ever and ever, because anything on this line is a solution. All right, so here are a couple other examples that you can try out. Pause the video if you want, try this out. And here is the solution. Okay, and another one for you. Okay, get that y alone. And then we have some equations to write from graphs. So remember, we need 2 things to find the equation of a line. First, we need the y-intercept, and we need the slope. So in this case, let's look at that y-intercept. We see it crosses the y-axis at -1. And from there, looks like it crosses right here, right here, right here. So it looks like it goes up 1/2. Meaning my rise is 1, my run is 2. So we would say my equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 1. Okay, let's try one more of these. Okay, looks like my y-intercept is 2, and then let's see, it looks like it crosses right there. So it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 2. So my y-intercept is 2, my slope is, well, since we went down, it's going to be -5/2. So my equation y equals -5/2x plus 2. All right, and then from some situations, let's try and we'll just write the equations and you can practice graphing it. Monica's family wants to rent canoes for the day. It's a $25 flat fee plus $10 per hour. Write an equation. So that flat fee, that is our y-intercept. Okay, that's how much we start with, regardless of how many hours. If we rented it, didn't go out at all, we would still have to pay that $25. And then my slope is how much I pay each hour, which is 10. So my equation would be y equals 10x plus 25. And one more example of this. A health club offers a membership of $40 per month plus $15 fee for each class. Write an equation to represent. Well, in this case, we would say that fee for each class, if we're figuring out how many classes how much it's going to cost based on how many classes, well then my $40 is that flat fee per month plus $15 for each class. So we would say y equals 15x plus 40. Well, I hope this helps with your homework and for studying.